Alright guys, this is Nordgar again, and welcome to tutorial video number 3, tutorial how to set up a car in iRacing, number 3, part 2, the four corners and the rear. So let's get right into it. We're going to keep all this short, sweet, and simple so we can get to a future video and start actually setting up the car and get in more depth about how to set up a car and how to recognize what it's doing and what you're going to need to adjust on that. So let's get through the overview. And here we are at, we're headed to Homestead in the A Cup car. So let's head down to the garage and pick up where we left off last time. And this time we're going to be going over left front, left rear, right rear, and the rear end. The left front and the right front are pretty much exactly the same, and the left rear and the right rear are pretty much exactly the same with a couple of additions. So let's just get right to it. Here again, the left front and all the tires for that matter, corner weight, ride height, shock deflection, and spring deflection. You're not going to be able to adjust these, but these will be good guides for you as you make adjustments to see where all the weight is going, to see how high off the ground you're running, and how your springs are absorbing everything out on the track as your car is moving. So right now, for now, just know that they're there, and we'll get into more of that later on how to recognize. You'll be able to tell when you look at these numbers later on, you'll be able to tell what you're going to need to adjust to make things either pass inspection or to just drive better in general. But getting to the first adjustment that you can make, spring perch offset. You're going to be using the spring perch offset quite a bit. And the definition is adjust the height at which the spring is installed on the chassis. Basically used to adjust ride height. Make perch offset changes in pairs. Same change for both front wheels, both left wheels, or left right, or left rear, right front, right rear, left front. So basically what they're telling you here is when you make a change on the spring offset, say if you go down 3 clicks on the left front and you want to make the same change for both front wheels. So we'll go down 2 clicks on the left front, and that's basically what they're telling you to do. Or if you want to go left rear, right front, and do the diagonals. Left rear, right rear, left front. Same thing. We'll get into those changes later. The next one is spring rate. Spring rate, how stiff the spring is. To get the same ride heights after a spring change, the spring perch must be adjusted. So after you want to get the same ride heights, basically the spring, you're going to have to go back to the spring perch and make your fine adjustments there to finish up adjusting the spring rate. How stiff the spring is to get the same ride heights after a spring change, the spring perch must be adjusted. Stiffer springs control the chassis attitude better, which means less roll or pitch change, which is good for aerodynamics and camber control, but mechanical grip is often better with softer springs. And I'm just going to throw out a rule of thumb there on a lot of the courses that are like a mile and a half or less. You're going to want to go with a softer spring. Super speedways, you're going to want to go with a stiffer one, and we'll get into that more as we start setting up for different kinds of tracks. We'll go over all that at a later time. Just know spring rate, you're going to be adjusting a lot along with the spring perch. The next one is bump stop. The bump stop is a rubber donut that keeps the shock from bottoming. If the car's suspension compresses into the bump stops while on the track, the stiffness of the bump stop will affect the handling in the same way the spring rates do. And iRacing is kind of jumping over itself here just a little bit, but talking about the bump stop stiffness, you're going to make adjustments to the stiffness to either try to make it compress better or not compress as much is the easiest way I can put it. and those are going to be located on your shocks. Now we go to Packer. Packer are going to be the fine changes between the bump stops. The Packers change the height of the bump stops, so the suspension hits the bump stop earlier or later over a bump or compression. This allows fine control over dynamic ride heights, which can improve the aerodynamic downforce. So basically what they're saying here is this is the fine tuner of the bump stop. Next down is to the bump stiffness, which is also a big part of the bump stop. How stiff the shock or damper is while being compressed. It can alter handling in transient maneuvers, lifting, and what that means is it'll change how lifting or pressing the throttle, pressing or releasing the brake, rolling into or out of a turn. It's going to adjust on those specific things. The bump stiffness. The more front bump stiffness you have, the tighter under braking and turn-ins. The more rear bump stiffness, when we head down to the rear tires, the tighter under acceleration. So that definition is pretty much self-explanatory. And if you need to ever look it up again, just go here and hover over bump stiffness and it'll tell you exactly what I just told you. A rebound stiffness. How stiff the shock or damper is while rebounding or expanding. So after the bump stop has been compressed. And why would it be compressed? It would be compressed because you're going down into a turn at 170 miles an hour and all the weight on the left front of the car is compressing down on that spring. Okay? Now, when you come off of the turn, the weight shifts and comes back off of the spring. The rebound stiffness is the measurement and the adjustment that you can make on how fast that bump stop is going to rebound to its natural position. That is the simplest way I can put it. And those adjustments there, sometimes you may want it to stay compressed longer or shorter depending on how long the turn is. If it's a really, really long sweeping turn, you're going to want to keep that compressed for a longer rate. So you're going to need more rebound stiffness so it doesn't spring back up to its original position quicker than what you need. And this definitely helps with the cornering and braking. So know that for right now. Camber and caster. Now these two are always talked about together. And basically what camber and caster are they deal with the wheels themselves. The wheel on a race car is not sitting flat on the ground. It is, and I don't know if we're going to be able to see it here. Probably not. It is, it's actually angled. And I'm not sure if we're going to get a good view or not. So you can see, probably not. You're not going to get a good view here at this track. There's not a lot of camber being shown on the screen right now, but basically what you want to think of when you think of camber and caster is this: is camber. If you look at, let's at least try to get a close view. If you look at the wheel here, okay, and I really wish we were looking at the left wheel, but camber is, if you look at the wheel on your passenger vehicle, your tire sits completely on the ground. It's flat completely on the ground. When you turn it, it's still completely on the ground. On a race car, camber is a adjustment you can make to the wheel itself, and what camber will do is it'll take the top of the wheel and it'll either lean it out or in. Now on the right side, on an oval, you want to lean on the right hand side, you want to lean the front of the tire in. On the left hand side of the tire, you also want to lean it in. You want to lean it toward the infield in here. That will help you corner the corners better. It will also help with the grip in the corners. But the give up you're going to give, though, is when you get down to the straightaway, if you have too much camber in on the straightaways, there's going to be a part of your tire that is actually not being worn. It's not being used nearly as hard as this would actually be the outside of the tire. The outside of the tire pointing to the inside of the infield. And if we go back to our garage here, we'll go over this one more time real quick. Okay, camber inward, negative, outward, positive. Okay, so remember that. If you move the number in a negative fashion, it'll be inward. If you move it in a positive fashion, it'll be outward. And as you can see, the left front and the right front, they're reversed. You're going to have a positive number on the left front and a negative number on the right front. All right, so that's that. That's camber. So basically, the top of the wheel is pointing toward the inside of the track, and the bottom of the wheel is it's basically pulled back inside of the car. It's putting an angle, a tilt, or a lean on the tires is what camber means. Now, caster. Caster goes along with camber because this is another adjustment that you can make to help you corner better. But I do not suggest making huge swings at caster because once you mess it up, it's really hard to get it back. But what caster is this. If you look at the hub here on the Norgar TV Chevy Impala, if you look at the hub, caster, take this wheel, take the hub, if you can see my arrow, and caster is the movement of the wheel either frontward or backward. There's an adjustment that you can move this wheel further up into the wheel well, use more of the wheel well, and there's an adjustment that you can move it further back. Now, an example is if you're at a track and you're having real big problems cornering and you got the camber all maxed out and you can't put any more camber in it and you still can't turn her down, the next thing you want to do, and this goes along with caster, is you may want to take your right front and move it forward and take your left front and move it backward a little bit. And what that does is when you're going, that is going to actually arc your vehicle already. Your vehicle's already going to be arced even before you get into the turn because there's a shorter wheelbase from the left front to the left rear than there is from the right front to the right rear, which is basically, you can think of it like this. Your left leg is shorter than if your left leg is shorter than your right, and I mean a lot shorter. Now, I'm exaggerating. You're going to walk around in a circle counterclockwise, and that's basically the point I'm trying to make here with caster, is you're making, here on the left side, you're going to be making your left leg shorter than your right. Therefore, you're going to walk around in a circle. And these are finite adjustments that you can make along with camber to help corner better, help get better grip in the corner. But again, the sacrifice you're giving up messing around with the camber and the caster is your straightaway speed. So that's camber and caster. The next thing on the list is, I think we're going to actually have to go down. The next thing on the list is we go to the back part. Now, the back wheels have a couple different adjustments than the front ones do, so let's go over that. They have all the same up until you get into left rear toe, right rear toe, track bar, and truck arm, and then truck arm preload. So let's go over those real quick. Left rear toe in. Toe in means the left and right wheels are steered toward each other. Negative toe in, or toe out, means the left and right wheels are steered away from each other. Stick to toe in at the rear. The less toe in equals the less temperature buildup. Less temperature buildup means better speeds and better tire wear. The more rear toe in equals more straight line stability, meaning when you're heading down the back stretch at, say, Daytona, and your wheel, you're going straight, but your wheel keeps going thump, 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 and it's hitting every little bump and every little this and every little that. The left rear and right rear toes will help adjust all that thumping. The more straight line stability, but you want to be careful. You don't want to give up too much in going into the turn, using it for the turns, because it'll make the back end of your car loose, and the back end of your car will skid out, and up into the wall you will go. So left rear and right rear toes, definitely an adjustment you're going to be messing around with, and we'll get more into the toes later on. Track bar height. Now, if you are a NASCAR fan, this is one you hear a lot of. Track bar height. Track bar holds the rear axle in place laterally. The higher the track bar equals the looser in left turns. The higher the right side or the chassis mount, then the left side or the axle mount. The tighter on corner entry, looser on corner exit. Opposite in right turns, keep track bar flat on a road course, and the same as left and right. Okay, so for the road course part of it, don't worry about that right now. What you need to know right now for track bar height, and this is one of the quick adjustments that when a NASCAR driver makes a pit stop, when you see them run around to the back of the car, stick the wrench in the back window, there's a couple of different holes back there. One of them's track bar height, one of them's wedge. But for now, know right now that adjusting the height of the track bar is going to be one of your primary things that you're going to be adjusting on loose and tight setups. Track bar heights and making small adjustments at this will swing your car in big ways. So this, again, we'll get into setting up and what you should start with here in future videos. But what you need to know right now, loose, tight, that is going to be dealt with right directly with the track bar. Truck arm mount. Truck arm holds the rear axle in place longitudinally, meaning the exact opposite of the track bar. You have left and right, you have up and down. This is the opposite of track bar. This is left and right. Track bar height is up and down. And truck arms hold the rear axle in place longitudinally. Movable mounts on the chassis. The higher the mounts, the tighter the corner entry, and the looser on corner exit. Again, this is going to be one of those things that you are going to mess with. It is not as big of an adjustment as the track bar height because you're only going bottom, middle, and top for the truck arm mounts. And each one increases the distance or decreases the distance on the mount, between the mount and the actual truck arm itself. And that is going to determine how well you're going to corner. So you're going to have to find the right setting for that, and basically you're going to stick with it. And I'm not too sure about people mixing these up. Now, me personally, I always keep them the same. I don't know if somebody goes top, say top on the right side and middle on the left, and I'm not sure if, and again, that just made me fail by doing that. Now, if I go to the middle, I'll probably still fail. Yeah, now it's too high. So I'm sure we'll get a lot of comments about which way or how you're supposed to adjust this, but we'll attack this problem when we're adjusting a car when we start setting one up. Last thing here in these sections before we get to the rear, and the rear will be real fast, is a truck arm preload. And this kind of works along the same way as the front anti-roll bar preload, and when we get to it, the rear. But the truck arm preload, truck arms and rear axles act as an anti-roll bar. Use this to remove the preload or twisting force from the axle after any height adjustments. Done with shims where the axle and truck arms join. Basically, after you've made a lot of adjustments, this is going to be a fine tuning mechanism that you're going to use in the back end of the car to make fine adjustments. And that's going to be it for the left, right, the four corners. And now on to the rear end ratio. Okay, these are your gears, all right? And Iracing, if you click on this to make an adjustment to your gears, Iracing's only going to let you make an adjustment so far, even on the open setups. Like 4 is going to be the max that I can go down on this list, and I believe 3.0 is probably going to be the lowest I can go on the list. Now, this does get a little confusing, and we're going to get into it more in depth when we start setting up our cars, but for now, know that the rear end ratio is here. These are your gears, and this will be one of the main first things that you're going to be messing with when you start setting up a car. The definition is the gear ratio in differential, quickest way to change the engine's RPMs, achieved at top speed, trying to maximize the engine RPMs just before turn-in on the ovals. And in a nutshell, what that's telling you is you want to be at max RPMs. Max RPMs meaning you're just about redlining, if not redlining, when you hit the turns. And you don't want to redline for longer than 1 or 2 seconds. You will burn up your engine, and on really long runs, you're going to wear the engine out. So this is going to be one of those things that you're going to play with and get a good feel of where the RPMs are reaching when you're entering the turns. The next thing is the ARB diameter. That is the exact same thing as the top anti-roll bar diameter. The bigger the bar, the bigger the larger rear anti-roll bar diameter equals the stiffer bar or more oversteer. So the bigger this number, the looser it will be. This is a main adjustment that can be made on loose and tight from the rear end. All right, the next one is arm symmetry, arm asymmetry. The more arm asymmetry equals chassis roll. More left cornering, that's good, which can help hold down the front splitter and increase the downforce. That's also good. At a road course, use none. Know that. At road course, use none. So, again, the more arm asymmetry, the more the chassis is going to roll. Now, that may sound good, but the chassis rolling too much will put all the weight on the left front and spin your ass end around. And they'll be calling a caution flag for you. So that's one of those adjustments you're going to have to make in small increments. And you can only make a few. It only goes up to none, minimum, and max. So there's only 6 choices anyway. So find the right one and work on it from there. Chain or solid link is the next one. And with the chain attachment, the anti-roll bar is effective only in left turns. With the solid link, the anti-roll bar is affected turning both ways. So on an oval, basically what you need to know is this needs to be chain and not solid. On a road course, leave it at solid, and it helps. Basically, if you leave this on solid for an oval, what solid will do is it'll help you recover a slide, basically. And you guys are at the point now that if you're setting up your vehicles, you're not worried about recovering slides. You're worried about going fast and having a stable car. Recovering for slides is for somebody who's brand new to racing and knows that they're going to slide around a lot. So basically all you need to know for this is you want to keep the chain attachment. You want to keep it chain for ovals, solid for road courses. And the last but not least is the preload. Now this preload, unlike the front preload, excuse me, unlike the front preload up front here, that cannot be adjusted. There is no adjustment for it. You make other adjustments throughout that will adjust the preload up front. However, there is a preload adjustment here in the back, and it works the same as the front. Twisting forced in the anti-roll bar as installed. Making any height adjustments can change this. It can be used to control cross weight. So basically, if you've made a whole bunch of changes, say on your springs, and your height's been all up and down, and now all your weights, if we go back to the readings that we can't change, if you go back to these weights, you're going to use the preload to help adjust the corner weights. The left front, right front, left rear, right rear, and I'll show you an example here real quick. If we go up double in a positive direction here to that's negative. Sorry. Yeah, if we go to a positive direction here, you're going to see that the right heights or the corner weights have changed. If you unattach that and reattach that, hit apply. Now you see the corner weights just changed, and they changed on the left front. So that is another fine-tuning adjustment that you're going to be able to use But this one is going to be for the weights, the cross weights. The last one, link slack and rear sway bar. Link slack reflects preload in the anti-roll bar. Generally try to minimize the preload after any suspension adjustments. And basically all of this, the springs, the bumps, and the no, not the toe. The springs and the bumps and the perches, they're going to affect the link slack. But again, it's a piece of information. Just know that it's there, and we'll worry about that and get into more of that lately. But that's going to do it for this video here, going through the rest of the overview. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned a little bit. Next video we get into is going to be a lot more in-depth. We're actually going to get out on the track and run our vehicle and make some adjustments. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, please like, comment, and subscribe down below. And we'll see you next time out at the track.